Welcome to another live stream. Hopefully everything is right. Anybody who's out there, please let me know that everything's working okay, that the sound's okay, you can see me, and we'll get after it here. So, 1 second here. Let me pull something up, and let me get rid of that. All right, so wanted to start this morning by talking about basically what I deem to be the best way to handle things in terms of your own hunger signals to make sure that you stick to the plan okay. And the reason this is coming up is this is a topic I've been having with a number of clients lately in terms of like when they should eat and, you know, saving up calories versus eating in the morning and what works best. And really it just kind of comes down to your own personal hunger signals. Like I know we hear these things all the time, like, you know, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, or, you know, don't eat at night, or all these different things. But as I pointed out in a video recently, it really doesn't matter when you eat. It's really about your total numbers for the day that impact your results, regardless of what time of the day you eat and how often you eat, how much you spread it around. It really doesn't matter a whole lot. Like with regards to fat loss, it basically doesn't matter at all. You can make some small arguments with regards to muscle. Won't get into that in this video, but for the most part, it honestly doesn't matter. So here's where the problem lies in. So if you're someone who, say for instance, you're just never hungry in the morning and you always tend to be pretty hungry at night, well, let's just say you go, well, I hear that breakfast is so important, I should have it. I'm not very hungry, but I'm going to force myself to eat because it's so important to do so, right? So you get in some calories in the morning, and nighttime runs around, and you're probably just as hungry had you not ate in the morning. The problem is now you're more likely to have more calories because you've used up a big chunk of your calories right away when you weren't even that hungry. It didn't do anything for you, and then now later in the day you're still hungry. It makes it harder to stay within your calorie limits, especially without being overly hungry. So to me, what makes most sense is if there's a time of the day where you're generally the hungriest, that's when you want to save up a good portion of your food intake, your calorie intake for the day for that time. Take myself, for instance. I have always, my entire life, even as a kid, have just never been hungry in the morning. In fact, so much so that if I try to force myself to eat in the morning, I'll literally feel sick to my stomach sometimes. I don't know what it is, why it is. It's just always been that way. I've always been hungry at night, especially later at night. You know, right before bed, I love to have a big meal. And, you know, if we want to talk about how, you know, carbs at night make you fat, well, then I would be huge at this point because I eat probably literally most of the time, at least half of my calories, oftentimes half my calories at night, like after dinner. I just like to save it up. I'm not that hungry in the morning. I have, you know, kind of a smaller lunch, just nothing big, but, you know, 500-600 calories or whatever. Same thing at dinner. And then I'll have 1,000-1,200 calories or whatever as my last meal right before I go to bed, because that's when I'm hungry. But if I eat earlier in the day and take in a few hundred calories, it doesn't do anything for me for later on in the day. I'm still going to be hungry. And this is what I find to be true with most people. We certainly have certain times of the day we tend to be more hungry. If anyone's out there, can you please just let me know that you can hear me? Hopefully this is working okay. I haven't seen any comments yet. Maybe is it because I pinned this? Anyways, somebody let me know that we're live and you can hear me and everything. So anyways, so if you're someone who is hungry in the morning, you know, eat a big chunk of your calories in the morning when you're hungry. Don't feel like you need to save some up for later in the day when you're not going to be that hungry. Work with your body's natural hunger signals, not against it. And it's the reason this works so well is because it's just going to help you keep from overeating and having too much. And, you know, why fight against it? We all tend to have certain times of the day when we're more hungry. And if that's something that's typical for you, then that's exactly what you should do for yourself. So don't feel like you have to eat in a certain way. I can promise you that food at night is fine. The reason some people see better success by not eating at night isn't because eating at night makes you fat. It's because by not eating at night, they eat less calories, right? Like they reduce that extra meal that they were eating and now they eat less calories. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into the Q&A if anybody has anything, if anybody's even out there. This doesn't really seem to be working. Anyways, let's get into... Okay, thank you. There we go. Hello. Welcome. All right. Glad to hear that everything's working okay. So let's get into the questions that I have. I have a handful that were submitted prior to, which is good because I don't see anything yet. And, let me know where you're watching from. I see one from Mexico here. And let's get to it. So let me switch over. Let me get rid of that. And let's get to it after I drink a sip of coffee, of course. So first question, does protein count towards the overall amount needed if it's in small amounts, such as in a snack, or does it just then count towards total calories? And I should focus on getting 20 to 30 grams of protein in a sitting with 2+ grams of leucine at a time. I think I brought it up too big, so it's not all in there. There we go. Like a proper meal if the goal of reverse dieting is building muscle. So you should count it all. Like, it's kind of looking at it as like what's most optimal versus what really matters the most. And it is a good idea, especially if you're looking to build muscle, to kind of like evenly space out your protein throughout the day. So if you're going to have 4 meals and you're going to have say 120 grams of protein, it's a pretty good idea to have around 30-ish grams in 4 different meals to space it out. And there is kind of a certain amount that is going to help with building muscle in terms of anabolism. But I don't want you to get too caught up in the little tiny details like that. And the other stuff, it still helps, it still matters, and there's still more benefits besides just anabolism. So I definitely count it all. But it is a good idea to try to get a good protein source with each like main meal, so to speak, to make sure we're triggering muscle protein synthesis well. So hopefully that makes sense. And Natasha, since I know you're here and you got another question, let me just go to that first. I've gathered in a few places for every 100 grams of protein, the body converts 60 grams to glucose. Is this always the case, or is it as a needed basis? I'm just going to kind of stop it there. So first things first, I really don't honestly know for much. Like, I'd have to do a lot more research to figure out like exact mechanisms behind it and what happens. I can say that it really does matter in terms of how much you're consuming. So say, for instance, you're very low carb, well, then the body's going to try to do what it can to get glucose from other areas. So if you're basically not eating any carbs and then you're eating more protein, it's going to take more of that protein and convert it to glucose for energy. If you have plenty of carbs, it's probably less likely for it to convert more over. However, with all that being said, I don't want you to put much or really any thought into this at all, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We're looking at like what might be maybe 0.1% of what really matters here. So it's very minuscule, if anything at all. And we've got plenty of research about how much we can use for anabolism at a time, usually around 30 to 40 grams of protein, depending on size and training experience and things like that, and also the leucine content of that. But we don't want to overthink things too much and spend much time thinking about the things that don't really matter, when 95+% of what does matter is just hitting your numbers and getting a good amount of protein, right? Whether that's 1 gram per pound or lean body mass or whatever else. The point is just get a good intake of protein and you're going to be good to go. And how your body handles that, I wouldn't get caught up in that. Like there's a lot of research around, okay, about 0.82 grams per pound is what's used for anabolism and this and that. And if we just get too caught up in these tiny little details that just at the grand scheme of things don't really matter, it can distract you from the stuff that really matters. It's kind of like those saying, don't get lost in the forest through the trees or something. I'm totally butchering that, but you know what I mean? So yeah, I wouldn't really worry about it. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. And just eat how much protein based on your own personal weight, and don't worry about the rest, and you'll be fine. All right, if there's any questions, feel free. Pretty late today, it looks like. All right, what caloric deficit would you recommend for a 1 to 3 week mini cut? And is it advisable to jump back up to maintenance calories immediately after the cut for a couple weeks after a diet break, before going back into a mini cut? Or should you slowly go into maintenance calories? So first things first, if you're doing a mini cut, then that's it. Like a mini cut should be usually around 2 to 4 weeks tops. And then if that's a mini cut, then that's it. Like, you wouldn't go back into it again. Like, if you're going back into it again, now you're just cutting. So usually a mini cut is something like you're going to throw into the middle of a long building phase, a long reverse diet, where you're going to be doing this. You're going to be out of a deficit for a really, really long time, but perhaps you're getting a little uncomfortable and just want to zap a little fat back. You get in and get out really quickly, and you do it aggressively. For most people, this is not a good idea. And it's got to be something where you're in it for a very long haul. You've already spent plenty of time in the reverse. You haven't dieted even remotely soon. So you don't want to jump into it just because you've done it for 10 weeks and now you don't like that you've gained a couple pounds. And now I'm going to mini cut it. You're going to stop the process from working. So it's very, very, very rare that I recommend mini cuts for most people. Most of the time, it's people who don't have a history of dieting. They're not a yo-yo dieter. They're someone who's spending years, like literally you're going to spend 2 years building, but they want to go through a quick mini cut just to kind of, get things down a little bit. And they've already been doing this for 9, 10, 12 months. You know what I mean? So for most people, it's probably not a good option. I do have a video that I did send her to as well. Let me just click on it so you can see it. It's called How to Mini Cut and When It's Okay. So if you want to know more about what you should look for and how to know if it's a good time to mini cut or not, check out that video. And it talks more about what you should do. And you get really aggressive with it, like probably at least 30-35% of your maintenance calories, of reducing that. And it's just a quick hitter in and out before there's much adaptation, and then you come back. But you definitely shouldn't go back into a cut after just being out for a couple weeks if you're going to do an actual mini cut. And you don't have to do a super slow increase after a mini cut because it's only been a couple weeks. You may not want to go right back to your exact maintenance calories from before, but maybe just a little bit down. I mean, you're not going to see that much adaptation in that much time, so you don't have to it's not like a normal cut where you need to more gradually increase your calories. You can jump them up pretty quickly. So you can jump up pretty dang close to your normal maintenance at that point. All right, I think we got a question here. Let's see. Best advice as a coach, keeping people motivated through a reverse, knowing this could take a year to get them back into a spot to lose weight again. Thanks. You're very welcome. And yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges, honestly. And this is where most people do struggle the most, is during the reverse phase. And the biggest thing is always just reminding them of why they're doing it, the benefits of it, reminding them to focus on the positives and the benefits of what they're doing, because there's so many more benefits to reversing than there is cutting. Like, when it comes to cutting, the reverse is better body composition. Like, that's pretty much it. Or in more extreme cases, sure, they're going to improve their health and stuff. But for the most part, it's just that physical result is the only real benefit of a cutting phase. In a reverse, you get to enjoy more food, have more balance and flexibility. You're going to be able to perform better. You're going to be able to get stronger, build more muscle. You're going to feel better. You're probably going to sleep better. You're going to recover better. You're going to be able to live your life better, like in terms of being able to go out and have fun and not stress out so much about like low calories and stuff. There's so many more benefits to reverse dieting. So you always want to just remind them to focus on that. And no matter what you're doing, you always want to focus on the positives of what you're doing. A lot of times people get caught in the grass is always greener mentality. So what I mean by that is, in a reverse dieting phase, they're always focusing on, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight, I want to lose weight. They don't even enjoy the extra calories. They don't even appreciate the fact that they're not so hungry and that they're feeling better and getting stronger and stuff. It's just, I just want to lose weight. That's all they can think about. And they don't even enjoy all the extra stuff. And then as soon as they start cutting, now all of a sudden, they're not even enjoying the fat loss that they're getting. Now it's, I'm hungry, I want more food, I'm lower in my energy, like all the things that they should have been enjoying before but weren't. Now that's the thing they want now that they cut. And I've literally seen it in a week. Like, I've had people that like beg to cut for months on end, and then finally I'd say, okay, now you can do it. And then 1 week into the cut, I hate this, I want more food. It's like, oh my gosh, you just spent all that time not even enjoying that when you should have. So that's the thing you really want to focus their attention on and remind them. And then also remind them, like, being patient is where the results come from. It's playing that long game. It's setting yourself up for success. Talk about how, trying to rush the process has never worked before and got them in the spot that they're in. And just keep reminding them that we're playing the long game. We're in this for the life for your lifetime. And just keep reiterating that, because it's a challenge. A lot of people struggle through that part of the process. So very good question. Struggling to get enough calories in my reverse dieting. Would it be a good idea to add in meal elsewhere, even if it's against hunger cues, or better to enhance current meal macros? Whatever helps you personally get more calories in. Where I find most of the time when someone's struggling to get enough calories during a reverse because they're too full is usually because when we're increasing calories, we're doing it through only like hard to digest, nutrient dense, really filling foods. So if you're trying to increase your calories, but you're doing nothing but eating more chicken breast and tilapia and broccoli and spinach and like all these things that are lower calorie, high filling foods, you're gonna have a really hard time getting more calories in. So being okay with eating less filling, more calorie dense foods, perhaps even drinking some calories, and like a good option is to have a carb drink with your exercise. Like if you're gonna go into the gym, grab even just a regular full calorie Gatorade or a carb mixed drink that you can sip. Have something that's tasty during your workout. It's gonna help fuel your performance and help get your calories in without being so hungry. So I mean, you can play around and see if adding some snacks in and stuff will help. For some people, that makes it worse. For some people, it does help. Some people are more or less hungry by having snacks and not having snacks. And you may find if you try to add that in, by the time that your meal comes around, you're still full from the snack, and then it's actually do more harm than good. And you may do better trying to eat bigger meals less frequently. I can't say. You got to play around with it yourself and see. But the biggest thing is usually the food type is the biggest consideration. Very welcome. Is there a limit on how slow you increase your calories on a reverse? I'm on week 12 of my first reverse and have only increased around 450s in total, staying at 0. No, there's no limit. I mean, it really just kind of comes down to what your goals are, what your goals are now as well as in the future, and what's most important to you, meaning staying roughly around the same body fat versus being okay with gaining a little bit more to get the benefits more. There's no right or wrong answers. And honestly, like a strategy I like to take with people who get their calories into a pretty good place, but they're maintaining pretty well and they're already satisfied with the amount of food they're eating and everything. Sometimes they'll just make tiny little bumps occasionally because it's like the body will never really even notice it. But if you do it over a longer period of time, it gets like, it helps it get it up. So what I mean by that is like, well, let's just give you like 5 grams of carbs this week. That's 20 calories. It's like nothing, right? But if you do just 20 calories, but you do it, 10 weeks in a row, now you're up 200 calories, or even, every other week or whatever. So there's no limit to it, but it just kind of depends on how well you're able to adhere to the current calories that you're on. Like you don't want to keep doing a slow pace if you're having a hard time sticking to your calories. If you're still feeling like crap and feeling really run down and in a bad spot hormonally and metabolically, a slower pace is not going to help you be able to increase that. But 450 in 12 weeks, that actually doesn't even sound like that slow of a pace. Let me do a little math. 37, yeah, so that's about 40 calories a week. That's not bad. But no, there isn't a limit or anything like that. You can play around with it. Yeah. Yep. Very, very common, Natasha. You're far from alone. All right, let's go back to some other questions. You got that one. A bunch from Gabby here. I'm going to come back to hers. Don't worry, I'm going to do them. But there's a lot of them. And X bit rate's here, so let's do that one. I'm going to have to get rid of myself here, though. Somehow. How do I do that? There we go. All right. My question is, what do you think is the worst or less optimal if you would get to choose for a cheat day during a fat loss phase? 1, exceeding your target calories but maintaining your ideal macros and protein percentage, or 2, keeping your calorie intake with the target but disregarding your macros, mainly protein, completely, and increasing carbs and fats. Oops, there might be more. Very welcome. And I already went over the mini cuts, so and I think I also went ahead and sent you that video as well that you can watch. That will be more helpful for you probably. So let me answer your question in a second here. So don't worry about macro percentages, right? That's irrelevant. When increasing or decreasing your calories, you don't want to focus on percentages. You want to focus on the total macros. So what I mean by that is like, so say for instance, you're 180 pounds and you're eating 180 grams of protein to do the 1 gram per pound. Well, that's going to be a certain percentage of your total intake. But if now you're eating 500 calories more for a refeed day, or you're reducing your calories to create better fat loss or whatever, you still want to keep that 180 grams of protein. You don't want to change that, because if you do it based off if you don't, like, understand that your percentage is going to change, and it's not about your percentage, it's about your total protein. So instead of focusing on that, just focus on your calories and keeping your protein relatively steady if you can. Now, you specifically said cheat meal. I'm not a big fan of that term, just because there's a lot of negative mental implications to cheat. Like, I mean, if you think about it, if you're ever cheating on anything, it's not good. You're always doing something bad, something wrong if you're cheating, like cheating on a spouse, cheating on an exam, or whatever, cheating your friends out of money. It's always bad to cheat. Cheating is never a good thing. And if you call it a cheat, that alone can just make you feel like you're doing something wrong. And it doesn't mean like that you can't ever have a day of untracked and of eating, or just having what you want and not caring if it's going to be over your normal calories or whatever. That's fine. Like, you get to make those choices, but just don't call it a cheat. Like, unless you don't mind, it doesn't bother you. But I just find that it does a lot. Excuse me. But you also specifically asked about calories versus macros. So to me, it's not even a cheat at that point anyways. It's more of like a refeed, right? Like, you're still controlling your calories, which is great, but focus on calories, right? I think that was your main question. So it's definitely more optimal, to answer your question completely, is to not to exceed daily calories and maintain macros, but to keep calorie intake the same, but not worry about macros. So if you keep the calories the same and don't worry about macros, that's going to keep you close. Especially if you're interchanging carbs and fats and keeping protein the same, then it's not going to matter at all. But even then, like, as powerful and helpful as protein is, like, one day of low protein isn't going to make any difference whatsoever, right? So hopefully that helps answer that question for you. This is the most common thing, Natasha, for sure. It's what I see all the time when people have a hard time eating more calories during a reverse. Like, just the fear of eating foods that they deem as bad, or not just eating nothing but veggies all the time, which that's going to make you feel miserable too. Like, when you start eating that much, remember that those foods are very hard to digest, and that's part of what helps you feel full in a dieting phase, is because your body's having a hard time digesting that food. It also, yes, it lowers ghrelin and things like that as well, from the fiber, but it's not. If you overdo it, well, now you're going to cause a lot of gastrointestinal stress, a lot of bloating, as that stuff like ferments in your gut, and it can cause a lot of issues. And to go to even more of an extreme, then you could also look at it as, if your digestion gets all messed up from having too much, well, now you're not going to properly absorb the nutrients that you're getting from that food anyways, and you could even have malabsorption from having completely jacked up digestion. So while fiber is good, while veggies and vitamins and minerals, your micronutrients, are good for sure, that doesn't mean that a crap load of veggies is really good, or a crap load of fiber is really good. No, much like everything, the answer is generally somewhere in the middle. Like, the fitness world in general is so extreme, like from one extreme to the other. But the answers are never to the extreme. It's never like starve yourself or just eat endlessly, or, you know what I mean? Like, the answer is always somewhere in a more moderate position, not way to one extreme or the other. All right, let's see. Let's go back to the questions. And you're very welcome. Hey, Jake. What's up, man? All right. Let's go with Joy's question here. Not what I wanted. All right. What is the best exercise weightlifting for back for back bra bulge and fat on the back called love handles. I'm on a cut, so hoping food and exercise will decrease this. My belly has decreased tremendously, adding cardio, but not so much back fat. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. So, unfortunately, Joy, you cannot spot burn fat. This doesn't exist. So there's no exercise that you can do where you're just gonna like target that fat and make that go away. And the love handle area is a very common area to be more, stubborn, kind of the last to go. And that's exactly what that is. Areas that you have a hard time losing fat means the only way to get rid of that is to continue to eat in a calorie deficit and continue to lose fat until your body eventually uses that fat. So you go into a calorie deficit, your body's going to use fat for energy. It's going to burn that fat, and it's going to do it wherever it deems fit. And while there's certainly some areas like lower back fat, lower abdominal fat, for women, thighs oftentimes, it's I lost my train of thought there. Sorry. But those are common, but everyone's different. Some people carry it in much different areas, but wherever you're having a hard time losing, that just means that you need to get that much leaner to get there. Paul has a good analogy for this that I think he got from someone else, Berto maybe. But anyways, he says it's like if you want to get the bottom, if you're looking at a swimming pool and you want to get the water that's at the bottom of the swimming pool out of the pool, you can't get to the bottom of the swimming pool without getting the water off the top first, right? Like if you have a bucket and you're going like this and getting out of the pool, you can't go to the bottom first. You got to get the top stuff off first. Body fat works in a very similar manner. You're just going to have to make sure you're staying in the calorie deficit. Your body's going to burn fat, and eventually it'll start getting to those areas, but you have to get leaner and leaner to get there. That's why there's some areas that you just got to get, for some people, you just got to get crazy lean to be able to see those areas reduce body fat. But unfortunately, no, you can't. If you want to lose arm fat, doing curls isn't gonna help you lose that arm fat, unfortunately. Now, if you build muscle in a certain area, it can help give the appearance of less fat because it's gonna kind of tighten that area as the muscle presses out against the skin. But you can't actually get rid of the fat by doing specific exercises, unfortunately. Let's see. You'll feel so much better, Natasha. In a slight calorie surplus, thought I'd feel amazing in the gym, which I do, but now I'm running into laziness. Is this cause of added fat mass that goes into a bulk? I've never massed while counting calories, so it's very consistent. There could be a lot of reasons. I mean, look at your quality of food for one. I'm always a big proponent of flexible dieting and not looking at foods as good versus bad, and being able to include foods you enjoy. But sometimes what can happen is we kind of go too far in the other direction, much like I just talked about how people in a reverse will be too scared to eat foods that aren't clean and eat too many veggies and stuff that make them feel miserable. The same in the opposite direction can kind of happen for some people, especially in a build. It's like, okay, especially because you're feeling fuller. Well, now you just eat all your calories through junk food, basically, and food quality still matters. You still want to fuel your body with good vitamins and minerals, and you want to still eat a good portion of your diet through whole foods, nutrient-dense foods, and things like that. But also just not only that, but if you're finding that you're eating a huge portion of your diet through junk food, that could be part of it. So looking at that first. If you start gaining much too much body fat, then that can have some implications too. Or perhaps maybe you cut out your cardio completely, and I don't recommend that either. We want to help. It's a good idea to minimize your cardio while in a building phase to make sure that you do build and have that tool for when you are going to start a cut again down the road to be able to increase cardio to help with the deficit. But it's a good idea to keep in at least 30 to 60, probably no more for most than about 2 hours in a week, to get the health benefits from it, to help with work capacity in the gym and energy levels and things like that. So that could be something to look at. So it could be a lot of reasons, and I can't say for sure, and there's a lot I don't know about you, but those are some things to look at to see if you could make some improvements in those areas, and see if that helps. And then there's other areas too, like sleep, stress, all that type of stuff that could also factor in as well. All right, I think I got one more, actually technically a lot more from Gabby here, but I'll cover them. All right, what is the first step someone obese should take when trying to lose a large amount of body fat and gain and retain some muscle? So, pretty loaded question, but the biggest thing is, just start getting into the gym. I mean, obviously, if you're looking to build or retain muscle, then you need to be strength training. So you want to get in there and train a few days a week and start making some changes, but don't try to like flip your entire life into a 180. And what I mean by that is, don't go from I was doing nothing to now I'm going to work out 7 days a week and I'm going to eat nothing but veggies and be super clean, and I'm never going to go out to eat, and I'm never going to see my friends because it's going to get me off track. Like, it needs to be sustainable. So start making small changes that will add up over time versus like, let's just change everything all at once. That just becomes too overwhelming and unrealistic to sustain. So start, like, if you haven't been controlling calories, start monitoring that and see where things are at and get an idea of what they are. And then I have plenty of videos about how to make some decreases in calories to help with that. But just start getting active and start trying to make some changes with your diet, and don't try to rush the process or do anything extreme, and just start getting into things here and take it one day at a time. You're not going to get it all figured out right away. It's just, you're not. Should someone who is morbidly obese have a high body fat percentage just focus on cutting and losing body fat, or should they also try to gain muscle? If so, how to do that? Definitely still look to gain muscle. Gaining muscle is only going to help you with the process. A huge mistake that a lot of people make is, well, I just want to lose the weight and then I'll look to build muscle after. That's completely backwards. Building muscle is only going to help you lose body fat. Now, we always have to look at weight and body fat aren't the same thing, but if you're morbidly obese, then you're still going to see that scale come down pretty well, even if you are building muscle, because the fat should come off at a pretty decent pace, being that you have that much body fat. So the scale is a better tool at that point, because you're just going to know that a lot of that's going to be body fat. It's not the be all end all, but it's still a tool to look at. And so get in there and get good strength training in, and like I said, just get in there and start. I think I'm getting this impression, Gabby, and it might be completely wrong, and I'm not, don't take this the wrong way, but my impression or perception has been that you've been hesitant to start with your journey because you're not quite sure what to do. And maybe that's wrong. Hopefully you have started. But if you haven't started, then the biggest thing that I want to relay to you that is just start. Just do something. I know you don't know what to do, but you just have to start. Nobody's going to get it all figured out and then start the process and do it. You start figuring it out by doing it. You make the mistakes and you learn from them. Like, we all suck at first. I was terrible when I first got into this lifestyle. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Everything that I preach now is like the complete polar opposite of what I used to think when I was first getting into things, because you just learn and you grow and you get better. So as you learn more, it just gives you more tools in the tool belt to help, but you have to start. If you don't, you're never going to get anywhere. It's like the old saying, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great, right? So don't overthink things too much, and just start getting into things, and then of course get help. If you're too worried about it, and if you want someone who can be more objective with you and knows what they're doing, whether that's me and you want to apply for my online coaching, link in the description, I'm happy to take you through the process and help you so that you can get out of your own head, and then you know what to do, and you have someone who can hold you accountable and be objective with you. But it doesn't have to be me, and it doesn't have to be anyone. You still can start without the help. But if you're really concerned about, what should I be doing, that the best place to start is to get help from someone who does know. You know what I mean? Which, while I'm at it, if you are interested in coaching, head to my website, ColinDeWaayTraining.com, and head to the coaching section here and click on this sign up now, and it'll bring you to a application where you can fill it out. And what I'll do is I will shoot a video just like this, going over your application, going over all my thoughts, and send it to you in your email. If you don't see an email response from me within 24 hours, check your junk mail. It's in there. I guarantee it. So, all right, on to the next. If I am morbidly obese and have a high body fat percentage, should I try and get in the in-body body fat scan to see an estimate of how much body fat I have? No. At that point, I don't think it matters. You're gonna know. That stuff is. I don't even think it has a lot of value for most people, honestly. And there's always degrees of errors with those measurements. It can be kind of a fun tool, but it's not the be all end all. But it's more for leaner people, I think, who are trying to see, okay, like I've built some lean body mass, but reduced my body fat, and it can be kind of a fun tool. But if you're morbidly obese, it doesn't matter your starting position, and you're going to know if you're losing body fat or not, right? Like you're going to just start making changes, and the body fat's going to start coming off, and the scale's going to start going down, and it's not going to change anything, right? Like, could you do it? Sure. Is it information that you can have and that you can look back on and be proud of down the road? Sure. Like, you can go, okay, like I've lost this much percentage of my body fat. That's exciting. That's great. But it's not going to change what you do. And that goes for anybody. Like these things aren't going to change the way you do things. The principles still apply. So it's just, if you want that measurement, that's fine. But for you, you're going to see the changes in pictures and measurements and stuff like that easily. So I wouldn't bother with it. How do I make sure I feel 80% full or satisfied after each meal that I have on my weight loss journey and not need seconds? Well, I mean, obviously hunger is going to be a part of the process no matter what, but eat a high protein diet, eat plenty of fiber and things like vegetables and high volume foods to help is the best advice I can give you. But the mental part of it is just accepting the hunger as a part of the process. Honestly, that usually helps more than anything. I did a video on that recently. If you want to look it up, I forget it, but it was recently. All right, what else? Oops, that's not what I wanted. Is there a certain amount in grams of total carbs that someone who is obese and sedentary should eat when on a weight loss journey? No. This is very individual, and especially if you are obese and morbidly obese. I mean, you should be watching, like if you are diabetic or something, then we need to pay attention to that more, and you need to work with your doctor on that to watch for insulin and everything. But as a whole, it's going to be different for everybody, and I wouldn't even recommend even looking at carbs at this point. I would look at calories and protein, and that's going to get you. That's what really matters the most, especially in that position. You can interchange carbs and fats however the hell you want and get fantastic results. So don't worry about it. How do I learn or develop self-discipline around tasty food when I start doing workouts each week? That's a loaded question. I don't know that I can really answer that. I mean, we can look at things like, one of the things that a lot of people will say, and I do myself, is, find your why, right? Like find your reason as to why you need to keep going, because motivation gets you started, but it never keeps you going. It's dedication that keeps you going. And it's hard to stay dedicated if you don't have a strong reason why you're doing it. And if you don't, I think a lot of people struggle because they don't even really know what they want, right? Like they think like, well, I'd like to lose some fat, but they don't really know what they want. And you're not going to work hard towards something that you don't even know what it is you're going after, right? And if you don't have a strong reason that you must keep going, it doesn't have to be this grand big thing. I mean, it helps if it is. A lot of people will look at they'll have a child, right? And they're very obese and they're like, man, I don't want my child to make the same mistakes that I made. I want to lead by example. I want to make sure that I'm around for them. I want to be healthy and make sure that I don't die an early death that could have been prevented. Things like that just drive the crap out of them. And then you just keep that and plaster it all over your house on Post-its or whatever to keep reminding yourself that when you're struggling and you're unmotivated that you need to keep going because this is too important. But it could be something smaller. Like for me, the thing that always drives me is always the fear of regret. Like I don't want to end up towards the end of my life and regret what I've done or haven't done. You know what I mean? And so that's what I always ask myself, like, will I regret doing this? Will I regret not doing it? And if the answer is yes, then I do the opposite. That works well for me. It doesn't necessarily work well for everybody, but I hate regret. I hate it so much. So I don't want to have that. It's the whole reason I made all the changes that I did in terms of getting changing careers and starting my own business and moving to Florida and all those stuff. Because I don't want to get to the end of my life and be like, oh, what would have happened? What would have happened if I had just given it a shot? And hold on to that. For you too, what would have happened if okay, you're obese right now. What would have happened if you had just started taking the chance and got after it and didn't give up and kept going for the next 10 years, right? What would have happened, right? Amazing things would happen. Promise. You can do a lot of things wrong and get fantastic results if you just keep going. But if you keep quitting, man, you're never going to get anywhere other than backwards usually. So find a reason that's important to you and don't let that go. And ask yourself, do I want this tasty food more, or do I want this? But also at the same time, remember that you can have tasty food and include it into your diet in numbers, just in moderation, and you can still get results. And sometimes that mindset switch is the very thing that will help with that too. Because when we look at food as bad or we shouldn't have it, it only makes us want it even more. Like, as soon as you tell yourself you can't have something, now that's the very thing that you want. So knowing that it's a choice and that it's always there and you can have it or not have it completely flips the script in terms of how you look at it mentally. Because now it's like, okay, I can have it, now's not the time. Or you can have it and fit it in. That's fine. So that can help as well. And I think with this, I mean, everything I just said holds true. In 400s on weight loss journey, should I worry about diet breaks at all? And if so, when should I take one on the weight loss journey? Yes, I would still take diet breaks, absolutely. Help keep yourself in a better place, hormonally, metabolically. Honestly, the research that was the 2 week on, 2 week off approach was in obese people, and it showed to do better than what it did with leaner people. And you got a long journey ahead of you, and you don't want to, get caught up in it. It needs to be this fast process. Make it a lifestyle and keep yourself more satisfied. Yeah, I would absolutely take them. How long? Like, I've got videos on this, Gabby, how to diet break, and I just did a video on this recently, and there's no right or wrong answers. I mean, I usually say like every 4 to 6 weeks is a good time, but hey, I mean, you got a long ways to go. You could probably go longer. Whatever works best for you. I mean, pay attention to how you're feeling and if you think you could use one or not. But there's no like magic, you should do it this amount of times. What should a complete 30-minute full body resistance training workout program consist of for beginners 3 days a week? Just get in there and just focus on compound movements that use multi-joint movements, bigger movements, but don't get caught up in it. Don't try to figure everything out right now. Just get in there and start moving. Just get in there and do anything. As a beginner, you can show up to the gym and do literally anything, and you're going to see results because your body is so untrained to this that it's just going to start adapting quickly, and some great things happen. So you don't have to worry about getting too complex with things. All right. Very welcome. Should you count steps on a reverse? So it kind of depends. If it doesn't bother you to count steps, then yes, because it only helps to have that tool. And sometimes too, we can be much more or less active and not even realize it on a daily basis. And knowing if your steps are up or down will tell you that. So like all of a sudden you might start gaining more weight than you were used to, and thinking like, what's happening? I'm still sticking to the plan. Why am I gaining? But then you might see that all of a sudden you're averaging 30,000 steps less a week. You know what I mean? You're just way less active. Maybe there was a change in job or home life or something else. So having that objective data can help, and knowing how much you're doing tells us that. But at the same time, if you're just reversing and looking to have more of a sustainable lifestyle and not looking to cut again down the road or anytime soon, and it kind of bothers you to have so much detail, then not counting is fine, because we're not looking to put you in a great position to be able to cut and everything. And I just realized that I totally read that question wrong, but it's still relevant. So you said, should you cut steps on a reverse? Apologize for that. So again, it still depends. So if you're looking to cut again down the road, if you can get your steps down, well, your body is going to adapt to this, right? So let's just say, for instance, you're averaging 10,000 steps a day, and now you're going to start a cutting phase. Well, that's your baseline, and if you want to increase your steps to help with creating a calorie deficit, you need to go above and beyond that 10,000 to do that. So now you need to go to like 12,000, 13,000 steps a day to get that to help. Whereas if you walked your steps down to say 4,000 or 5,000, well, now when you start your cutting phase, now your body's adapted to 4,000 or 5,000 steps, and that's your baseline. And now you can make increases from there and not have to go with such extremes to be able to use extra steps to help with creating a calorie deficit. So again, it kind of depends. It depends on especially too, like if you just really love walking and getting out there, then that's fine. You just have to know the pros and cons. Or if you're just looking to have a sustainable lifestyle and you're not looking to cut again down the road, and you're just looking to enjoy a healthy lifestyle, then however many steps you like is totally fine. Is fat loss loss mostly loss of inches or pounds? It's a combination. It depends on a lot of different things, but it's we want to look at everything. So we want to look at pounds, we want to look at scale, we want to look at measurements, we want to look at pictures, and we want to pay attention to how clothes are fitting. So like in a cutting phase, that's why I like to look at all those things, because if you're seeing progress in any of those, then things are happening. And sometimes you'll see big drops in the scale, but inches won't move, and pictures won't show a whole lot. Sometimes you won't see any changes in weight, but inches will drop like crazy, or you'll see big picture changes, or your clothes will start fitting better. Sometimes inches won't change, pounds won't change, but you can see visible changes, or all of a sudden the clothes are fitting much looser. So and usually it catches up, right? Like if you're losing inches but not pounds, eventually the pounds are going to come down, and vice versa. So that's why we look for anything, and if things are happening, then you just keep going as is. But inches is more around the waist, because other things like thighs and arms and stuff, that's a combination of fat and muscle. But it's not necessarily one or the other. I remember in one of the more extreme cases, someone who was obese and had never really trained before when we got started with her, and I can't remember, it wasn't very long, within a couple months she had literally lost 5 inches off of her waist and hadn't lost a single pound yet. Like that's extreme, that's very rare, but it's why we don't only look at scale weight. And it was just, she was recomping like crazy. She was losing body fat, building muscle, and it was showing up on the inches and in the pictures, but not on the scale. And eventually, obviously, the scale started coming down. But it's not necessarily, it's not one versus the other, and it always depends on starting position and a lot of different factors. But pay attention to all those things. Those are the big ones. Weight, but again, weight is honestly the least important of all of these, because we're looking for body composition changes. So if you're losing weight like significant, or if you're losing inches, or if you're seeing changes in body count but you're not seeing changes in scale, who really cares? Does it matter? I just made a post on Instagram, which, by the way, if you're not following me, it's right here, Colin DeWaay. I just made this post, I think it was yesterday. My client here, she's been in a reverse for 9 months, and she's increased her calories by like over 700, and she's gained 4 pounds during that time. But look at the change in body composition. I mean, look at how much leaner she is now, weighing 4 pounds more. So we don't want to just get caught up in just scale weight. And that's why I like to have those pictures, because sometimes we can go, oh man, the scale's really creeping up and I'm getting so fat, and oh my gosh, my clothes are fitting tighter, and this and that, and it's like, well, hold on a second, let's look back. Nope, actually you're leaner now. You know what I mean? So I just really want to stress to not get overly concerned about the scale. Yes, likely the scale is going to start coming down as you lose body fat, but it's not necessarily going to be what you think it should be. All right, was that it? Let's see. Got that one, got all those, got that one, got that one. All right, anything else? I'll give it a couple minutes. Well, thank you. Really appreciate that, Natasha. I really do. All right, anything else? I just think it's so important to be flexible. I mean, everyone's so different and responds differently. You can't just give everyone the same approach. And honestly, I think the biggest part, or not the biggest, maybe the biggest, one of the biggest parts of being a coach, honestly, is helping people navigate the ups and downs of life, and how to be more flexible when necessary, when life calls for it, and when to dial it in when necessary, depending on life and goals and everything else. But the biggest struggle most people tend to have is the all or nothing mentality. And if you have that all or nothing mentality, as soon as life kind of throws you a curveball, it's like, well, it's too hard now, I can't do anything, screw it. And then you just go crazy and you gain a bunch of weight super fast, and you keep yo-yoing back and forth. We got to learn how to be able to navigate those times in life, because they're always going to come. Difficult circumstances and obstacles are never going to stop coming in life. I hear all the time, well, I need to wait until I can give 100% to start. And it's like, no, start now that it's not optimal, because then you can learn how to navigate the time when it isn't, so that you can build those skills and not feel like the only way I can do this is if everything lines up perfectly, because it's not going to last long. You're going to have small pockets of window in time where things are going to line up, and that's That's great when that happens and kill it when it does, but that's going to go away. It's just going to happen. Like that's life. Like when have you ever just spent like years with no problems and no stress and no busy times and all of that. So we need to learn how to navigate those times without falling into all or nothing. You don't have to be perfect to get results. And sometimes just staying roughly the same is progress. Like if you typically gain weight and now you're just doing nothing, or you're just staying the same, that's progress. You're not going backwards anymore. That's a good thing. That's progress. So, Christina, so proud of you. You've done amazing, and I'm looking forward to it. We got a cut. We're starting to cut in a month here. And just when you go that long and you spent that much time building muscle and putting yourself in a good position metabolically, hormonally, it's just exciting. And I'm excited to see how things go here. And it'll be fun too once you get down to the same weight again, to take new pictures again too, and notice the difference between the two. So, hey, thanks, Brandon. Really appreciate the super chat, buddy. Hope all is well with you and your family. And can't thank you enough. It really means a lot to me. So thank you. Mai Tai. Oh man, I wish we were going back to Hawaii. Although I guess I can't complain. We are going to Switzerland this summer, but we were going to go to Hawaii, but too many restrictions over there, so we made a change. We're visiting some friends in Switzerland. So I don't know about a Mai Tai in Switzerland, but I'll I'll have some Swiss beers with it. Thank you very much. All right, anything else? I'll give it another minute or two here, and we'll call it a day. But I really appreciate you hanging out with me today, and I've got hopefully either Monday or Tuesday my next video will be up, and I can't even remember what it's about now. Jeanette, fill out an application. So head to onlinecoaching.com. Head to Colin DeWaay Training.com. And let me get rid of this banner. So head to this website, ColinDeWaayTraining.com. And if you go to coaching here and click on that, scroll down to the bottom, and it has this sign up now. It does come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So what I mean by that is it's not, okay, you're going to get amazing results in 30 days. That's not what I mean. What I mean by 30-day guarantee is you have 30 days to try it out and see if you like it. And if within those 30 days you go, you know what, like this coaching is just not for me, for whatever reason that might be. I don't even ask for explanations. If you just decide it's not for you within those 30 days, then and you request a refund, I will give you a refund. I'll give you your money back. So it's literally it's risk-free. And so anyways, go to that, fill out this application, and it'll send me an email that it's done. And once I get that, I will shoot a video going over it, giving you my thoughts on everything, and shoot that video email back to you, and we'll see if it makes sense. But if you don't see a video from me, an email from me within 24 hours, then check your junk mail. They go in there all the time, unfortunately, and they get missed. So check that out. I don't know, Christina. I mean, I appreciate it, but I can't teach work ethic, and you've got a very strong work ethic. You put in the work. Like coaching, you can only do so much in coaching, and we can help steer. But at the end of the day, you're the one that has to do the work, and I can't do that for you. And that's what you do. And I'm glad that I've been able to help, and I love being on the journey with you. But give yourself the credit. You deserve it. Very welcome. Thank you, Christine. I always appreciate your comments too. I really do. Can you go back to maintenance calories during a diet break? Yes, but your maintenance calories are a moving target. So don't make the mistake of thinking that you can go back to what your previous maintenance calories are. Your current maintenance calories, yes. But what I mean by that is, let's just say, for instance, you were in a long reverse, and at the end of your reverse, you were holding 2,000 calories as your maintenance calories, right? Now you've been dieting for a while, the calories have gotten down, and you've lost some weight and everything, and it's been a while. Well, now 2,000 calories isn't your maintenance calories anymore, because you've had some hormonal and metabolic suppressions from the dieting that you've done. It's just natural. It's going to happen. We do things to help minimize it as much as we can, like refeeds and diet breaks and taking it slower. But your maintenance calories are going to drop. So you can't just jump back to your previous maintenance calories, or that's going to be a surplus for you. So I do have a video over here. Let me bring it up for you. It's called How to Diet Break. Question mark? Yeah, right here. How to diet break, your step-by-step guide. So just look up my name and how to diet break, and it'll kind of walk you through how to figure out how many calories you should eat and when you should do it and how to go about that process. So, which by the way, I mean, for any topic anybody ever has, like I've done over 800 videos at this point. I guarantee you I've probably done a video on whatever topic that you're looking for. So if you're ever looking for any information from me on a certain topic, just type in my name into the search bar and whatever you're looking for, and I almost guarantee you something's going to pop up. And if not, shoot me a comment on a video and I'll probably do a video on it. Trust me, at this point, I am looking for ideas on videos to do. At this point, it's just kind of like recycling old ideas and updating things that I've changed my mind on and stuff, which I do. Like as new evidence comes through, we need to be adaptable and not be stuck in our ways. But there's only so much to talk about. You know what I mean? Oh, thank you. I don't know about that. I don't even like the term guru, but I appreciate it. And yeah, it sounds like you're a prime candidate to get into that reverse and start focusing on some new goals to put you in a better place. So shoot that application over. Is it okay to reverse without the intention to later cut? Absolutely. One step at a time, but the later part messes with my mind focusing on the reverse part, and I may never cut due to last history. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're in a bad spot metabolically, if you're run down into the ground and your hormones are all jacked up and you're really low calorie and you're just feeling like crap, and you don't want to cut again down the road, you can still reverse diet out. You're still going to put yourself in a better spot and focus on all those benefits again. So that's what you want to focus on. Not, okay, I'm setting myself up for success for a cut down the road. I'm setting myself up to be able to feel better, perform better, have more energy, have more balance and flexibility, hopefully create a healthier relationship with food. Like, one thing that a lot of people don't understand about creating a healthy relationship with food is it's very hard or almost impossible to do on low calories. It's like you just don't have the flexibility. If you're eating 1,000 calories a day, where's the flexibility going to come from? Because you just don't have the calories to do it unless you want to be freaking starving all the time. Like, if you spend 400 calories on a couple of Pop-Tarts or whatever it works out to be, and then you've got 600 calories left, sure, you can have those Pop-Tarts, but you're probably going to be pretty dang hungry, right? And you're not going to be well fueled. So by getting calories up and getting into a better place, not only with your hunger signals and your hunger hormones, but just having a bigger budget to work with, now it becomes easier to fit in like a Pop-Tart or whatever if you wanted, or whatever food you're looking for, because you have a bigger budget to do it. Much like, this is the way Layne Norton always explains it, is say for instance you made $1 million a year, right? Like you've got this huge budget and you wanted to buy $100,000 sports car. You can probably do that. You make $1 million a year, you can probably afford that on your budget. But if you're making $30,000 a year, should you buy a $100,000 sports car? Probably not. Doesn't mean some people still do it, but you probably shouldn't. It's not going to fit into your budget very well. Food flexibility works the same way. When you have a higher calorie budget, it allows you to be able to utilize more expensive foods, so to speak. So a lot of times it requires a reverse diet, or not even necessarily gradually increasing, but having a higher calorie target or a budget, or allowing yourself to eat more food, however you want to do that, to be able to create the healthy relationship with food that you need to develop if you are going to cut again down the road, before you do cut. Because if you don't fix up here, if you don't fix the relationship with food first, it's just going to be the same battle once you do cut again anyways. You know what I mean? So that's got to be a big priority, is fixing the mental, not just the physical. Very welcome. Anything else? Now this is going to bother me. I need to look up what my next video is. Obviously, I haven't started editing it. Oh yeah. Getting stronger while cutting. So how to literally get stronger when cutting, and yes, it is possible. All right, I think I'm gonna call it. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Where we go, about an hour. That's perfect. So like I said, a new video coming out Monday or Tuesday probably. Look for that. Make sure you've got those notifications on. And I hear frequently, unfortunately, that they don't even work half the time. And some people thought that I stopped making videos because they weren't getting notifications. So make sure you're checking manually too. I haven't missed a full week of videos in probably like 3 years. So if you see me stopping making videos, something's probably wrong on the YouTube end. So Thank you very much. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. And if you ever need anything, hit me up, or leave a comment on YouTube, or shoot me a DM on Instagram or whatever, and I'll get back to you. All right. Thanks.